Hello and welcome to Navarra for the second race of this penultimate Spanish Formula 4 round of the 2022 season. My name is Leo Gorman and absolutely wonderful to be with you again on what is a very cool Sunday morning in northern Spain. Its temperature is just 13 degrees Celsius this morning, although it's still a warm track temperature. We've just had a race on track a few moments ago. So we are registering the late 20s track temperature as it stands at the moment for this shortened race. 18 minutes plus one lap, and a full field of 30 cars leaving the pit lane to go to the dummy grid to contest what is now the fifth last race of the season, a season that is absolutely flying by very, very, very quickly. We do have one or two talking points from yesterday's race, which I will go through in a couple of moments' time. But first we have some driver changes. I mentioned yesterday, but I may as well go through them once again for those of you who missed it. Formula de Campeones running with three drivers this weekend. Alongside the regulars Max Meyer and Alvaro Garcia, we have Julius Dinesen making their Spanish Formula 4 debut. At Monlau Motorsport, alongside regulars Robert De Haan and Jeff Machiels, we have Niels Koolin also making a Spanish F4 debut. At GRS, Ricardo Grazia and Marcus Flack have returned from Brazilian F4 and Indy Pro outings, respectively. They missed a round last time out a few weeks ago. At MP Motorsport, there is no Zuleman Zenfari, and looking likely his season is over due to medical reasons, which we know no more about at this time. Hello, welcome to Navarra. For those of you just joining us for this second Spanish Formula 4 race of the weekend, as we're going through the driver changes for this weekend, at Formula de Campeones, Julius Dinesen is making his debut alongside regulars Max Meyer and Alvaro Garcia. At Monlau Motorsport, Niels Koolin is debuting alongside the regulars there, Robert De Haan and Jeff Machiels. While at MP Motorsport, Zuleman Zenfari is declared he's out for the rest of the season due to medical issues which have not been disclosed, which is really unfortunate, and hopefully we hear from him again very soon. Campos Racing, there are some significant changes over there. Philippe Genick is to miss the final two rounds due to administrative problems, undeclared administrative problems. Jesse Carrasquara Jr. returns to the team for this round. We're not entirely sure if that's going to be for the final round in Barcelona as well. Carrasquara raced for the team in the opening round of the season at Portimao, and they'll be racing alongside the regular, the championship leader Nicolas Solo.
será
George
complicado.
Kelstrup, Hugh Barter, who
Nicola
won yesterday,
tendría que ser
and Manuel
primero,
Espirito
hacer la
Santo.
vuelta rápida y que Barter hiciera tercero o
And
peor.
at
Con lo
GRS,
cual, bueno, es una opción, pero no
Ricardo
es tan sencillo.
Grazia
Si
and Marcus
Nicola
Flack
es
returned to the
primero
fold
y Barter
alongside
es
Vladislav
cuarto o peor,
Rybov and Daniel
haciendo la
Mavlitov.
vuelta rápida también sería
Grazia and
campeón.
Flack missed the last
Y si
round
Nicola
at
no
Montreal
consigue
Aragon
adelantar a Hugh Barter
as
en
they were
esta
competing
primera,
in
en esta
Brazilian
carrera,
Formula 4 and Indy
Nicola
Pro
siendo segundo, haciendo la
2000
vuelta
respectively.
rápida, necesitaría que Barter fuera cuarto o
So,
peor.
yesterday
Esas son
we
tres
had
posibilidades, las más
what was a
sencillas,
pretty
las que
calm
tenemos
race
más
up until probably
probabilidades
the
de ver
last
ahora. Desde luego
5
es
or
posible,
6
por
minutes.
supuesto.
We
Pero
had a couple of
veremos a ver
incidents
porque no
on
lo va a tener
track.
nada fácil.
Firstly, with Sandoval Interfuvazak going off seemingly by himself into the gravel, and then it was there was incidents also for Ricardo Escotto, a Cram Pinnacle Motorsport, and also for Vladislav Ryabov, who went into the pits and retired and had a bit of damage on his car. I didn't see exactly what happened, so we can only suspect that there may have been an incident between Ryabov and one of those two, we believe, Escotto. Now, we did get initially local yellow flags, and in the melee, Noah Stromstead overtook, I believe, yeah, that's actually just dropped clean out of my head. No, it was Gail Julian, sorry. Noah Stromstead overtook Gail Julian. That was under local yellow, but it was done before he got to the yellow flag section, so that overtake was permissible. After the initial local yellows, when it became clear that there was two incidents, it was a safety car scenario, but until the field caught the safety car, full yellow flags were waved across the circuit, during which Valerio Rinicello and Daniel Nogales continued to race and overtook each other. The positions swapped back to the way they were prior to the yellow flag, so the stewards saw no reason to offer penalties. And as the field came around to the final couple of corners, Kirill Smal overtook Nikola Solov for second place. It turns out, erroneously, a green flag was being waved at that marshal post. And as the green flag was being waved, even though it was a full course yellow scenario, the green flag was being waved. They hadn't caught the safety car as yet. The pass was allowed to stand, and Smal did not receive a penalty, as he was under the belief that with the green flag being waved by the marshal, the race was effectively underway. And so yesterday's standings of Hugh Barter race winning, Kirill Smal in second place, Nikola Solov finishing third, and Timothy Kaczarczyk finishing fourth does stand. It means the championship standings at this point, Nikola Solov now leads by 97 points from Hugh Barter. That's 301 to 208. Sorry, that's 93 points. With Timothy Kaczarczyk still third in the championship on 168, and that's looking pretty safe now for Hugh Barter to come take second place. Kirill Smal has extended his gap to George Kelstrup. That is now 119. Kelstrup on fifth in the standings on 92, while Valerio Rinicello jumps Zanfari to sixth in points on 76 and 70 respectively. Philippe Janik also not here to compete, as mentioned a few moments ago, was on 64. He's eighth in the championship. Ninth is now Robert De Haan. He's jumped to Sandoval Interpruvazak, who's on 57. While Gail Julian has jumped Manuel Espirito Santo for 11th in the standings. That's 57 to 50 points. I should also say, and just slipped me completely, Noah Stromstead for Campos Racing, making his Spanish Formula 4 debut this weekend, has shown very, very well so far this weekend. And has qualified well again here too. And speaking of qualifying, we will go with the grid as the field get the green light to move away from their dummy formation. In 30th position, after a three-place penalty following yesterday's race, Vladislav Ryabov in GRS. He'll be partnered on the 15th row of the grid by his GRS teammate Daniel Mavlitov at a 1:43.827. Not the best qualifying session for him. 28th on the grid. is Cram Motorsports. Ricardo Escotto at 1 minute 42.589. He'll be alongside 27th Theo Jensen for Santalop Racing. 26th on the grid for GRS is Ricardo Grazia, a returning racer. He has Jeff Mackills from Monlau Motorsport, 25th on the grid, while Spanish Formula 4 debutant Niels Kuglin from Monlau Motorsport starts 24th at 1 minute 42.047. 23rd on the grid, the other returning driver, Marcus Flack, his second weekend in Spanish Formula 4. We'll also see him in Barcelona in a 6-week time. 23rd on the grid for GRS, 1 minute 42.016. While 22nd on the grid, Alvaro Garcia for Formula de Campeones sets a time just outside the top 20. Miran Pinkasov for MP Motorsport at 1 minute 41.815 gets away from 21st. 20th on the grid, debutant racer Julius Dinesen for Formula de Campeones at 1 minute 41.771. He's got Manuel Espirito Santo 19th on the grid alongside him on the 10th row, while Max Meyer qualifies 18th for Formula de Campeones. He's got Sanabal Interpuvizak, MP Motorsport, 17th on the grid. Interpuvizak qualified poorly yesterday, had actually made up about 7 or 8 positions before he retired. Bruno Lapino, 16th on the grid for DriveX, with Maxim Arkanchelski alongside him. It's an all DriveX row 8. Sebastian Gravlund, MP Motorsport, starts 14th on the grid with Jessica Esquadra, the returning racer, 13th. Christian Ho for MP Motorsport is 12th, while Theo Neal, the leading Santalop racer, is 11th place, and now we go into the top 10. Robert De Haan, another solid qualifying run for him, 10th on the grid. Gail Julien for DriveX just ahead on 9th on the grid. Danny Nogales, he was 3rd in FP1, he starts 8th with George Kelstrup, 7th for Campos. 6th on the grid is Valeria Rinacella for MP Motorsport, while Timothy Kucharczyk gets away 5th. Noah Stromstead, the debutant this weekend, starts 4th for Campos. Very, very good job for him so far. 3rd on the grid, the red MP Motorsport machine, is Kirill Smal. He was 2nd yesterday, while lining up on the front row on the left-hand side of your screen in the all-blue Campos racing machine is championship leader Nikola Solov, while pole position on the right-hand side in your white and black Campos car is yesterday's race winner, Hugh Barter. And we're waiting patiently now for the lights to go out, and have been held. There is a yellow flag, I think, at the back. No, there's a marshal waving the green flag. They're held for a very, very long time. And the lights do go out, and we're ready to go. And that is a poor start, I believe, by Timothy Kucharczyk, held for quite a long time. But it is Barter that leads into turn 1, and Solov in 2nd place with Kirill Smal 3rd. Kucharczyk has regained somewhat, but he has Stromstead now on the inside line, so 4th and 5th remain the same. Rinacella has lost a few positions. He's dropped down to 8th position. While Daniel Nogales has got ahead. That actually is, my apologies, that is George Kelstrup, who's made a very, very good start, got ahead of Stromstead. The similar liveried machines, Campos machines. But meanwhile, that's not going to matter much to Hugh Barter, who's out front. Theo Neal battling for a position with Gail Julien. Gail Julien is ahead. Several drivers in the middle of the pack flying well off the circuit. And we see on screen now drivers coming around the last couple of corners to complete this first lap of the race. Hugh Barter led every lap yesterday, and to be brutally honest, didn't look at any stage as if he was under threat from behind. It was really Solov and Smal who were, and they weren't really battling too much over 2nd place either. Solov is not making any inroads as of yet. The gap is 0.8 of a second. We saw an awful lot of locking up yesterday, and we're seeing similar today. This being a much earlier race and shorter race, we may see drivers lock up as they struggle with the track temperature. But with this being a much shorter event, there's certainly a lot less risk of running out of tyre before the checkered flag. There's an incident somewhere for Maxim Arkanchelski. He was dropped right to the bottom of the screens, and he does look as if he's not made any progress since the close of lap 1. Oh, and there is an incident at the back of the screen, and two drivers collide, collecting wheels and into the barrier. Didn't quite see who that was. I do believe that may have been one of the Mondial Motorsport entries, in which it could well have been Niels Coulin. We shall see in a moment. Definitely looks like one of the Mondial Motorsport cars. I can't quite identify the other, but seem to have locked wheels somewhat and taking each other into the barrier. So that is 95. That is Julian Dinesen, the debutant racer. That's going to be a safety car, and a safety car has been called. But looks as if they locked wheels on the straight, and it took them all the way around and into the barrier. Now, this is a little bit of a test, as it were. There was an incident yesterday's race. There was a safety car towards the end. There was a few overtakes in that yellow period. Now, initially yesterday, Noah Stromstedt, and we see that is, I think the other one may be Riccardo Escotto for Cram Motorsport. They're the two drivers involved. Maxim Arkanchelski is running 18th. That was a timing and scoring issue that saw him not be picked up through Sector 1. That has corrected itself. So the two drivers out are Dinesen for Formula de Campanos and Escotto for Cram Motorsport. So yes, there was an incident yesterday with a safety car, and initially it was handled by local yellows, while Noah Stromstedt made an overtake on Gail Julian, and that was allowed to stand because at that time he made the overtake before he reached local yellow. Just after that, he went to safety car and full yellow flags, during which Valerio Inicella and Daniel Naganes were battling for position and swapped position. And they actually swapped positions back to the way they were prior to the safety car period. There was no need to issue any kind of penalties or warnings for that. However, there was another incident where Kirill Smal overtook Nicholas Solov well into the period where the yellow flags were around the circuit. They hadn't picked up the safety car just yet. However, they went past the marshal post that was waving a green flag. Kirill Smal, believing the situation to be green, made a jump on Nicholas Solov, and it went to the stewards yesterday, and even though it was a safety car scenario, they hadn't picked up the safety car yet, but because the green flag had been seen, the overtake was allowed to stand. And the marshal there furiously pointing to the drivers to stay to the far side of the circuit. But that overtake for Smal yesterday was allowed to stand because it was an erroneous green flag on that corner. And hopefully we will not have a similar scenario today. Maxim Arkanchelski once again does appear to be dropping down the order, and I do wonder if he actually has a general issue with his timing sensor. particularly in Sector 2. He's currently showing last. I think that'll jump back up to 18th position when he crosses the start-finish line. So, there was a bit of confusion at the end of yesterday's race. They decided not to actually go with reading out the championship standings because we simply didn't know what the scenario was. Stromstead in the end did get a penalty, a time penalty, a 2-second penalty. I think that was for track limits and not for an overtake before the yellow. So as it stands, Nicholas Solov leads the championship on 301 points. He's 97 ahead of Hugh Barter. There will be 98 points available at the end of this race, and effectively Solov just needs to sit where he is at the moment, and he will be champion. Barter second, so it's 93 points. I need to do my maths. He'll still be champion if he finishes second place, but obviously he wants to win the title by winning the race. But if he stays where he is, pretty much he will get that title anyway. Timotheus Kacharczyk is third in the standings on 168, while Kirill Smal is 119. It's going to be very difficult for Smal to bridge a near 50-point gap in the remaining races. Smal, meanwhile, has built a nearly 30-point gap over George Kelstrup, and that looks like it's going to extend in this race as well, albeit not by much. Kelstrup running fourth, while Valerio Vinacella is now sixth in the standings. He jumped the absent Zulmans and Fari after yesterday's race. Fili Jenik, as mentioned, also absent. He is eighth in the standings. Robert De Haan jumped to Sanopol Interpuvazak for ninth in the standings yesterday. They own 58 and 57 points respectively, rounding out the top 12 in the standings. Gail Julian is 11th. He jumped Manuel Espirito Santo after yesterday's race. We're hoping to get this race underway soon. It is a little bit of an effort to move those two cars. And just because two cars have gone off the circuit does not mean of the same corner, does not necessarily mean the number of marshals are moving them doubles. They're working very, very hard, working very, very quickly. Thankfully, they do look as if they've gone off at near a gap for cars to be removed. Although the fact that they are potentially damaged in that instant will make it a little bit more of a trying effort. Safety car driver getting a nice number of laps out there. Good for him. And I can confirm Max Markachelski is still 18th. He's got a sensor problem. Just marshals working on moving near the car. The pickup truck, they're connecting the rope to I believe they're connecting the rope to the roll hoop bar. And hopefully marshals will be able to move final stricken car very, very shortly. 6.5 minutes plus 1 lap remaining. An incident very early on in the race between Riccardo Escotto and the debutant racer for Formula de Campagnones, Julius Dinnison. And it's not an ideal scenario for Dinnison, as he really is looking to get some miles under the belt. And you don't do that by crashing out on the opening segment of a race. Hugh Barter leads. He has the fastest lap as well, so that'll be a bonus point for him. 15 points for the win in this shortened race and an extra one for fastest lap. Meanwhile, at this point, probably give all the points to the safety car driver. Doing an excellent job. There's the field coming around now to complete the 6th lap of the race. Waiting now patiently to get this race going once again, and hopefully we think it should be fairly shortly. I can confirm, by the way, unless any penalties are issued from this race, Noah Stromstead, the debutant this weekend for Campos Racing, has actually snatched pole position for race 3 later on. I'll go through this while this race is somewhat neutralised. Second on the grid will be Christian Ho, with Hugh Barter starting 3rd and Jesse Carrasquada from 4th. George Kelstrup will be 5th. Timotheus Kucharczyk starts 6th. Valeria Rinicella 7th. Sebastian Graveland 8th. Nicholas Solov starting from 9th, while Robert DeHaan will round out the top 10. That is, of course, if there are no penalties from this race. And given that early race incident we have had, it would not surprise me if there is a penalty coming, as the safety car lights go out and he speeds off into the pit lane, and we are getting ready to go once again. For 3.5 minutes plus 1 lap remaining in this shortened Sunday morning race. The field coming around the final corner. And the race is green once again. Hugh Barter leads from Nicholas Solov. Kirill Small in 2nd position, but George Kelstrup is under a little bit of pressure from Timotheus Kucharczyk coming into turn 1. We see Barter flash through the screen and going well wide there, but manages to regain it and keep ahead of Solov. Kelstrup was under pressure from Kucharczyk, but Kucharczyk could not make the move. So it's Barter, Solov, Small, Kelstrup, Kucharczyk. Then you have Noah Stromstead in 6th position. Kelstrup going through the picture, looking really to make up for what has been a few rounds where he's maybe not executed the results he would have wished at this point. It's Robert DeHaan going off in the background. He had a battle with T. O'Neill for the bottom end of the top 10. Lots of drivers taking to the runoff area at this point. Graveland really taking to the runoff area. Graveland now running in 10th place. We'll be hoping to hold on to this. He's not scored any points yet so far this season. Of course, this being the shortened race, you need to get into the top 8 to register any scores, so you need to take a couple of more positions. But right now, that will not matter a single jot to Hugh Barter. Crosses the line to complete lap 8. He's now on lap 9, 1 minute 20 plus 1 lap remaining, so we should see 10 laps in this race. Sullivan 2nd place. He's close, but not close enough to challenge for the lead. The gap is 0.4 of a second, but he is threatening to pounce and threatening to make a move. Small has dropped behind somebody's a second gap to second place Solov. Fourth place, Kelstrup seems to have broken the back of the challenge from Kucharczyk. Kucharczyk, meanwhile, is under pressure himself from Stromstead, while Nogales sits there in 7th place. Nogales has really shown an improved run of form this weekend. So for those wondering, just doing the maths in my head, Solov will not round out the championship in this race if it stays as it is. But most likely he will do in race 3 later on. If it stays as it is, the gap will be 89 points between Barter and Solov, with only 98 left. And that is Jeff Mackills in the Monlau Motorsport machine, off track. And his day is done. A lock-up from Barter. Now pushing very hard. Effectively, Solov would need to win with the fastest lap and Barter to finish 3rd if Solov wanted to wrap up the championship in this race. I've just had a message coming up on screen that George Kelstrup see the jump start, which may go somewhat to explaining how he went from 7th to 4th. So he has been issued a drive-through penalty. That will be a post-race penalty, which will drop him quite far down the order, given how few running laps we've had in this race. As we come through the final corners, and that's disappointing for Kelstrup, but a jump start is a jump start. As Barter comes through the final couple of turns now, and Solov going down the inside, showing his nose in the final corner. And Barter comes across the line to take his 5th race win of the season. Kelstrup is in the pits taking his drive-through penalty. And it drops him very much out of the points. Smal finishes in 3rd position. Kucharczyk up to 4th. Stromstedt finishes 5th. Danny Nogales finishes 6th. That's his best finish of the season. Valerio Rinicella collects 7th. And the final point scoring position goes to Gail Julian. Sebastian Gravland comes home 9th. And George Kelstrup stops at the end of the pit lane, having run 4th for the duration, a drive-through penalty. Put him right to the back. He is just going to get out of his car and stomp back to the pits, I'm sure. Hugh Barter, race winner, once again. It's his 5th of the season. And it's really come together for him in the last couple of rounds, and he has smashed the challenge of Timotheus Kucharczyk for 2nd in the points. Kucharczyk, another 4th place finish, bringing it home really to claim his 3rd in Spanish Formula 4 this season. Solov wins the rookie race again. Barter, of course, even though this is his 1st season in Spanish Formula 4, has raced previously in French Formula 4. He finished runner-up in that championship as well. So Barter pulls into Parc Fermé slots up to the #1 board. Well, Kirill Small slots up to the 3rd place board. It'll be a delighted Campos Racing team. Another 1-2. And fastest lap as well for Barter. Congratulations all round. So that puts Solov on 313 points, with Barter on 224. So the gap is 89, with 98 still available. As we look out to, I said earlier on, it's a cool Navarra circuit. The temperature has risen during this race significantly, but we didn't get a huge amount of running. Hugh Barter leading from the off with Solov in 2nd place, and Kirill Small keeping 3rd ahead of a fast starting George Kelstrup. Too fast of a start in the end. The jump start for Kelstrup dropped him from 7th to 4th, and he got a penalty for that right at the end. There were some battles in the mid-pack and towards the rear of the field, and is this incident between Ricardo Escotto and Julius Dinesen brought out the safety car for several laps. When we did get running, Hugh Barter once again solidified his advantage over the field. We still had some fighting down the order between Robert De Haan and Manuel Espirito Santo, who would finish 11th and 13th respectively, but it mattered little to Hugh Barter, who kept Solov at bay to take his 5th win of the season. Kirill Small wrapped up his 6th podium of this 2022 campaign. And the Australian celebrating in the cockpit of his Campos racing machine. There is the results. Stromstad with a 5th place position finish against Nagales. There's 6th. Rinachella in 7th place, with Gail Julian rounding out the points scoring finishes. Kelstrup, meanwhile, was classified in 19th position. That's effectively where he crossed the line after having taken his penalty at the end of the pit lane. As we are very, very late morning, 10 minutes to midday. The temperature did rise 6-7 degrees during the course of that race, from a cool 13 degrees when we opened our broadcast only 50 minutes ago. We're now hitting the 20s, so we should have actually quite a warm race later on today. And lots of other racing taking place this weekend as well. Some TCR, other touring cars, minis racing as well. So if you are coming to one of these fantastic events, there's lots on. We wait now for the podium celebrations. And the mechanics and the families and friends waiting for the drivers to come out, as we have an interview with race winner Hugh Barter. No, not quite yet.
Nicola, sorry.
Oh, here we go.
Hugh. Nicola is here. Congratulations, good job. You continue closing the gap with Nicola. How do you feel?
Yeah, I feel good. I feel like the momentum is strong at the moment. It seems like since Valencia, the pace has been really strong, and being able to keep up with him and take the challenge. Unfortunately, the first two, Jerez and Valencia, were quite poor rounds, so he's still quite a long way away in the championship. But in the end, for me, it's more securing second and just trying to prove that I have the pace.
What do you expect for the last race from P3 with Nicola P9?
Yeah, Nico was very smart in race 2 actually, putting the new tyres on then because he knew that he starts P9 in race 3. So for me, it's just a matter of getting to first and maximising the points I have. I think Noah doesn't score points though because he's not part of the championship. So if I finish behind him, I think I get 25 points. So it's no big deal, but I still want the first place trophy, and hopefully I can secure that.
Keep pushing and good luck.
Thank you.
Hugh Barter actually raises a very important point, and something that I do need to confirm with the stewards later on as to whether Noah Stromstead does actually collect points if he's listed only as a guest driver. And of course, so if he wins the race, he effectively scores nothing. But we will see about that. And I have nothing on screen telling me he is a guest driver, but you know, might as well get the actual confirmation from the people who make these decisions later on. So, a fantastic race for what we had. There were quite a few gaps due to a safety car in the middle. We do have the third race of the weekend coming later on this afternoon. That will be, the race will go green at 1:30 UK, 2:30 on the continent. So be with us at 1:15 UK time and 2:15 if you're on the continent for the start of that broadcast. That is the final race of this weekend, a 25-minute plus 1 lap race, during which we might see a champion crowned, or we might see it getting taken to the finale in Barcelona in 6 weeks' time. And given the situation, the scenario we were in at the last round at Motorland Aragon, I think Solov will be quite surprised at that. Drivers making their way up to the podium now, just waiting for them to appear. Like magic. Now onto the podium in the third place spot, Kirill Smile for MP Motorsport. And Campos Racing, another 1-2, makes them the team's champions of 2022. They've taken that crown away from MP Motorsport, who claimed it in a big way in 2021. Trophies now to be handed out on the podium. Nicholas Solov, meanwhile, he's picking up the rookie. I wonder why he has the number 1. That's a rookie trophy. He's got a significant advantage over Timotheus Kucharczyk in the rookie standings. And it is the trophy for the team's representative of Campos Racing. And we should now see another trophy for Kirill Smile for coming home in 3rd place. Another good effort from him today. Started 3rd, finished 3rd. Nicholas Solov getting his trophy for 2nd in today's race overall. now the trophy for the race winner for the 5th time this season, Hugh Barter. We shall hear in a few moments' time the national anthem of Australia. And celebrations now as the drivers crack open their Campion, I think it's called. Non-alcoholic champagne fizz. That's going to wait first because they're going to do the photographs. Get the signage in there too. And now the Campion sprays. And it is dreadfully sticky stuff. Well, we've had a very good race this morning, tempered somewhat by a safety car period, but it brings us another race win for Hugh Barter. We will be back, seeing highlights for something else. We will be back later on this afternoon for race 3. That is a 1:15 UK time and a 2:15 if you're on the continent. And if you're in Australia, apparently that means around about 11:40. Hugh Barter takes his 5th win of the season, ahead of Nicholas Solov and Kirill Small. We might see a champion crowned later on today, but it's going to be difficult with Solov starting down in the pack. And Hugh Barter getting away from 3rd could see a significant gain should Solov not make his way through the field. But until then, my name is Leo Gorman. You have been watching Spanish Formula 4. And we shall see you again later on this afternoon.
piloto del TET-RACE en este Campeonato de España de Turismos. Alba, vas cuarta del campeonato esta temporada, en esta primera temporada en la que estás a bordo de un turismo como es este CET. Cuéntanos cómo